Hey everybody, it's Captain Kyle, and I'm here to tell you that 6 Predacons form Predaking. I know, goes against everything that G1ers know in their hearts, but I have a third-party set of Predacons where there are 6 members of the team and they merge into a very cool Predaking. We have Razorclaw, Divebomb, Headstrong, Rampage, Tantrum, and this guy, I have no idea who he's supposed to be, doesn't have a G1 corresponding name. I decided to call him Mangle, because it kind of makes sense. You know, he mangles people. I was thinking of Carnage, but I don't want to get sued by Marvel. So I'm going to go through these guys one at a time, then not only their robot modes, but their beast modes. And then we're going to merge them into Predaking and see if this is cool for your collection. Be right back. Now, if you're wondering where their swords are, yes, they have swords. They actually combine into this huge, huge sword for Predaking. And I didn't feel like taking it apart, so deal with it. They've got guns, it's fine. They also have fists here that go on Predaking, which we will obviously use later. But let's start with the leader, Razorclaw. So Razorclaw, as you're probably aware, changes into a lion. He is the leader of the Predacons. He was a pretty cool transformer in the show. And this is a very cool version. Now he comes outfitted with the shoulder cannons, which you can plunk onto his shoulders, because that's why they're called shoulder cannons. They actually can turn and blast in different directions. If he doesn't want to appear so aggressive, he can fold them back. And he's got this pretty big ass gun and a shield. Like I said, the sword, if you really want to take apart that, I am probably, after I do this review, merging them into Predaking, putting them on a shelf next to my other Predakings, and going on with more reviews, because you guys are insatiable. So let's check them out. I'm going to take these accessories away, and this gun has a piece that comes off and replugs in, which I will figure out in a bit, but it's all the weapons, individual guns, merged together into a large weapon for Predaking, so that's kind of cool. And this is a little hip plate, but it also acts like a shield. So aside from the fists, everything pretty much goes someplace. Even the swords, if you do decide to take this honking thing apart, they plug into the animals in vehicle mode. It's really cool. But let's check out Razorclaw. First of all, let's check out the posability. Now he doesn't have ankle rockers, so starting at the bottom, he can do a full toes up Jean-Claude Van Damme. It leans forward a little bit, but still, the posability is there. So obviously his legs can go off to the side. He bends at the knee. Now his knees don't bend that much. That's kind of a irritation. But they bend somewhat, which is pretty good. He can kick forward, he can kick back. And even without the ankle rockers, you can set him up in a dynamic pose. You can do all kinds of posing on the lower legs. Now the arms here, now he's got these shoulders that turn, but this whole big lion's head in the front here kind of interferes with some of the movement of the arms. So that's kind of a not good thing, but overall, he's still got posability, bends at the elbow. They can go out to the side, they can swivel. The shoulders, as I mentioned, you can move them. Just gotta be careful of the lion head in the front. He does not twist at the waist. The others do, just spoiler alert, and I'll be showing you those, but this is the one that does not. His head can turn, can move forward and back. So overall, he's got some good posability. His view from the back, not huge and kibbly. I mean, you got this black plate and you got these guns. But overall, a nice posable figure. So a very cool robot mode. I like it. Very reminiscent of the G1, but some neat designs. So he transforms a bit differently than the others. Let's check out his beast mode. And I do have to say the transformation on these guys is overall pretty clever. Now this is the only one of these Predacons that in order to transform him you have to push in the legs, but they feel nice and tight. The plastic feels quality. Now he does not have a tail, which I imagine, you know, being a beast, he's not 100% pleased about. I mean, the original had this little hook thing, but the transformation is not too difficult. My only quibble with this is apparently when they assembled this in the factory, there's 2 knobs on both sides of the lion head that one of them, apparently when they put it together, was not properly aligned, and it is not plugged in, and you can't actually fit it in the hole because it's not designed to come in and out of that hole. That just didn't sound right. But at some point I will probably maybe shave down the edge of the hole so I can push it in. But that's my only quibble so far with this set. The waist shield goes onto his back, and that serves as the mount for the gun. So he's well armed. He's got these 2 guns here, and this big ass gun. He's a lion. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. Now the legs have some maneuverability. You can move the back legs back a bit, and they have joints there. The front legs have pretty much the same articulation as the arms, but a cool lion bot, well armed, looks good at all the angles. Again, very reminiscent of the G1. You can even elevate his cannons if he wants to shoot at Skylinks, who obviously they don't like that much. All right, next guy. Let's go with Headstrong, because he was the closest to me. That's pretty much it. So his big ass cannon on the back, this is the foot of Predaking. You can attach it by 2 little posts, or you can leave it aside. He comes armed with 2 guns. That's pretty standard for the G1s. They had 2 guns and a sword, so you usually had to put 1 gun aside, and I found a way with Divebomb, the G1, to like hook it to his hip. And you would inevitably lose. Well, some people would lose those, but he is a very cool version of Headstrong. I'm gonna take off his weapon so he doesn't shoot me if I do something wrong. There's the back view. Now his feet, they are kind of on a little bit of a swivel joint here, but not much of a ankle rocker situation. A little bit you can do, but not a ton. Now, you can get him into a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. He just looks kind of funky, which gives him a lot of leg posability off to the side. He can bend at the knee much further than his boss. The toes, you can move the feet a bit. There's a swivel. So a lot of articulation in the legs. This one does twist at the waist, so he can face his enemies in multiple directions. It's a little stiff, but you can move the arms pretty much all the way around. They can go off to the side, they swivel, bend at the elbow. The fists don't twist. I didn't mention that with the Razorclaw, his fists don't twist either. But good articulation. The head turns, which is nice. I don't remember, maybe the G1 could, but he could do the full Exorcist. So overall, not bad from the back view. You can see his legs there, but a good representation of Headstrong. Now, all these guys, when you transform them, and I'm gonna go ahead and transform him, I have to say the feet are kind of tricky because the feet actually clip into the back here. And so you have to kind of turn and twist in such a way. And I'm gonna admit something, which I don't want to admit, but it's kind of necessary. And obviously you want to position it the correct way when you do this. But I ended up actually breaking Divebomb's foot. I fixed it, but it has this long stem, each of them do, that go into a pin. So a long stem here goes into a pin, it's circled around, and I did it the wrong way with Divebomb, and one of his, it broke right in the round part that goes around that pin. So I used crazy glue and removed the pin and fixed the loop and then put the pin back through, and it works fine, but just FYI, be careful with these guys. The feet are tricky, but the transformations are actually pretty clever, and things plug in, so they're nice and firm. And what's neat with his face here, it actually folds up, so you're not actually seeing, you know, if you look underneath, a robot face staring at you. So with the feet, if you put them like this and then you try to bend them up, that's not gonna work. So you kind of have to turn them to the side and wiggle them into the proper configuration, which again can be a little tricky. Once you get it in the right spot, it plugs in. It's a very clever transformation, just I wish they had like trimmed the heels back a little bit. Would have made it much easier to get this guy into his beast mode or back into his robot mode. Now they're a little tight, but you do have to turn the back legs around so that they're facing the correct direction. You can plug his guns into his shoulders, and this big ass cannon, there are 2 posts here, 2 posts here, and there he is in his beast mode. Again, there's some articulation in the legs. Turn the head a little bit, move the legs back and forth. Even the feet can turn somewhat. Okay, the feet can't turn, never mind. I actually prefer him without the cannon on his back. The G1 had the ability to put the feet on the back as a weapon. But there you go, Headstrong. 2 down, 4 to go, which just seems weird. Divebomb, my bane. Here he is in his robot mode. He is the only one who only has 1 gun, So I could have broken out his sword, but again, I didn't feel like taking apart that huge thing. Just putting the gun back together is gonna be a pain. But very articulated. He's got the huge wings, of course. Very nice. Almost makes you think he can actually fly. He can do a full toes up Jean-Claude Van Damme, but his tail doesn't really bend out of the way. But he's leaning forward a little bit, but it's not bad. There's a little bit of a wiggle to the tail here. And his waist has an interesting joint. I think it's more for his, you would think it'd be more for, Predaking, but it's not. So the legs, he can bend at the knee. He's got these really pointy talon things that can really dig in when he needs somebody. So off to the side, he swivels. Again, lots of posability. He does twist at the waist and even has that weird ability to kind of like bend forward and back, though it kind of separates a little bit. Another minor quibble. This is the post that attaches him to Predaking. This was a little loose. Not a huge deal. Arms, you can move him at the shoulder, but of course he's got the wings in the back. So the wings can go fully back like this, and of course out, but does interfere with the arms. And you can even push them all the way up, so he can be like Egyptian. Transform like an Egyptian. Okay. Of course, swivels, bends at the elbow. Fists do not turn, but still a lot of articulation there, and his head turns quite a bit. There's his rear view. He's got the same kind of like jetpack type thing that the original Divebomb had. Cool figure. Again, one gun. All right, I'm gonna transform him and try not to break him again. So his feet are particularly a pain in the ass to put into position, but it is doable without breaking it, believe it or not. I just have to finagle again how to do it. And of course you can end up putting it the wrong way, like I just did. But I managed without breaking it to put it into the proper position. Now this is the one that I actually broke, so I'm gonna be a little more careful with it. I mean, crazy glue is great, but it is by no means a miracle stuff that will totally fix a joint. But without re-breaking it, I got it into place. So yeah, maybe it's me, maybe it's Maybelline, or maybe it's, you know, just the design, but I think they could have made it a little easier for the feet to be attached to the back of the legs. But it is still a really cool design. His face also flips up and his beak can open. The arms lock into place, and there you have Divebomb. Now the gun in his beast mode plugs onto the back, so he can actually fire that as he's flying. He's doing a dive bomb, so to speak. But again, the wings are very maneuverable. The head is maneuverable. He's got these talons in the back that can move back and forth. So you can actually put him in kind of a resting, almost like an Egyptian bird form. And again, a cool looking transformer. All right, let's go with Rampage. He's got two guns, very cool. I'm gonna trust you not to shoot me. Again, legs, I'm gonna do this pretty quickly because all the articulation is pretty much the same. Swiveling, knees, back, twist at the waist. Arms can go all the way around, off to the side, bend at the elbow, swivel. He's cool. The head can turn. He looks like a very good representation of Rampage. His back, it's not too kibbly. You can see the plug where he becomes an arm. And this actually looks like it moves. You might be able to, feels a little stiff, I'm not gonna move it. You might be able to set him up as a leg, but I'd prefer him as the traditional arm. But yeah, good figure. Pop out his guns. And he also has the claws on his arms, so you can flip them forward and add a little something to his punch. I would say that with the feet, Divebomb is the most pain in the ass. These guys don't seem to be nearly as bad. But this guy's got little hinges that swing out so that you can swing out his leg, which folds double. And he has a tail, unlike his boss. So there he is in his tiger mode, panther mode. I don't know, there's no stripes, but you can put his guns into his shoulders. And there he is. He's got some articulation with the front legs, and you can bend at the shoulder. You can move the back legs pretty far out, and they bend at the rear elbow, knee, joint, whatever. Not a human resources scientist. His jaw opens, which is nice, and can chomp. And there he is with the tail. Overall, again, looks good. There may be some way of attaching the fist, but I don't really see it in his beast mode, but good figure. All right, Tantrum, very similar as you might imagine to our dear friend over there. Why are they always my dear friends? Headstrong, and of course, you can put that on his back, or you can not if you want. 2 guns, full Jean-Claude Van Damme, though the beast's legs on the side of his legs kind of interfere and he goes face forward. But again, articulation, forward, back, bend at the knee, off to the side. Again, they all have slight ankle rockers because of how the feet are. His head does turn, you just gotta kind of tip it forward a little bit so that the big ass horns and stuff don't kind of get in the way. Articulation, twist at the waist, all that stuff. Looks good. Beast mode, his head again flips up. Rampage's head didn't, but it was kind of hidden in a different way. And of course you have the foot issue. He's also got these little plates that kind of come out during robot mode and fold back in. There's a lot of detail on these things. I'm actually pretty impressed on how they put these guys together. These cover up his knee joints, which is nice. And there he is. His horns actually can move too independently. You can turn his head from side to side, he can snort, and mount his big ass weapon right on his back. So intimidating. And he's also tends to, you know, throw tantrums. And finally, Mangle, very last one. I actually put a weaponizer in his hand as a sword. It was kind of cool. You can, of course, mount the weapons on their shoulders in robot mode and have them actually functional. But he is pretty much identical to Rampage, other than certain dental issues. You know, all the same posability, looks the same on the back, arms go around. He and Divebomb and also Rampage, I didn't note it with Rampage, have that interesting joint there. So a cool, again, version of a character we never got. I may be getting the hang of these feet. Watch it break and I'll be like, oh shit. There are some design differences between him and Rampage. As you can see, he's got these spikes on his shoulders, which is kind of a neat addition. So he's not just a different colored version with a slightly different face. And the feet on him seem to be some of the easiest to maneuver. Apparently these plates in the back here can also swing around the bottom. I don't know why. I kind of like them up. In fact, I don't know if they're supposed to be in that mode. Legs are very similar. The plate has slightly different adornments. Again, I like the little bit of variation. That attention to detail is nice. There he is. As you can see, he's more of a sabretooth with those oversized teeth, and the mouth opens. So that's pretty nice. Again, variations on the Rampage mold, but overall a very cool looking new Predacon. And a different color than Rampage, but not a weird looking color. But all right, I know what you guys want to see with all these guys. You want him to merge into Predaking. So let's do this.
Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
So there he is, the brand new Predaking. He is very well put together. I had to remember how to reassemble the weapon. You can put it in different configurations, so it's not that big of a deal. But he's a cool looking toy. Looks more like the G1, except of course, if you look at the back, you can see that Divebomb is just plugged into the back of Razorclaw there. But he's a very cool version of the toy. Now he actually has pretty good ankle rockers. It's a very clever transformation. The transformation for each individual bot is not overly complex, and putting it into Predaking mode is definitely not all that difficult. It does have articulation with the arms going back and forth. The legs can go forward and back a bit. I mean, it's a combiner, you don't want to be too rough with it. And I do notice that if you have the arms down at the side, he gets back heavy because he's got Divebomb basically hanging on his back. So he might flop backwards. So by having the arms a little bit forward, that kind of counterbalances it a little bit. The sword is really cool. I mean, I showed it a couple times before, but all those swords together forming a huge sword. And the gun is very cool. He doesn't twist at the waist because Razorclaw doesn't twist at the waist. And I might be able to get him into a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. Almost. I mean, you can see him with his leg out there. But he's a very neat version of Predaking. Now, for a little bit of size comparison, this is my metal Predaking from the Platinum Edition. And This particular third-party one, slightly taller, wider wingspan, but not too much of an increase in size. But I definitely like how cool this one is. The one in the cartoon had these shoulder cannons, which the G1 did not have. Oh, the head can turn and look down and stuff like that. So he's pretty big. And yes, he can use these guns to shoot up at Skylinks, because, you know, Skylinks pisses him off, because he's basically a shuttle with a cargo pod that can beat him up, and has. You actually have toe articulation, because these guns can move a little bit, so he can shoot someone in the shin. Well, another combiner, if it's a small guy, just shoots him in the face. Like, you know, Earthspark Flip Changer Prime, who really wants to transform and get out of here. Put him there, elevate the toes, bam. Well, right in the midsection at least. So full height from wingtips to feet, a little over 12 inches. So a very cool version of Predaking. I would definitely recommend him, and you get an extra guy. Now, if this costs me $90, $15 a figure, that would have been fine. That is a good price. I could deal with that. Can't you? However, he cost me about half that, about 45 bucks with a shipping for all 6 figures. Now, the way he showed up packaged is no box. He was just in Predaking mode and fully wrapped very nicely in a lot of bubble wrap, and comes with instructions, comes with the weapons. So I had no complaints about receiving it. I usually like to get the box because that provides an extra layer of protection. But for 45 bucks, this is the Tengyang version. It's a 30 centimeter 6-in-1 with no box. And they sell other ones, which, you know, they have the Superion and Defensor, Volcanicus, Gruticus. So they have a number of different figures that you can get. Yeah, I will put a link to him in the description below, but I like him. I think he's gonna look awesome. I will be doing a Power of the Primes version of Predaking review at some point. I just haven't broken him out of the box, and I'm sure he's gonna be taller, but this guy's gonna look right at home next to him. I mean, the back view, it doesn't show it in the instructions, but I turned around Divebomb's head, so the beak is facing backwards. But yeah, this is a very cool version of Predaking. Just gotta be aware the legs are always gonna be spread a little bit because of the design, but what can I say? He's Predaking. Now, I'm sure someone is gonna say this is a knockoff of another third party. They'll let me know in the comments, and that's fine. That's, I mean, sometimes the first third parties that they put out can be quite expensive, and then they come out with something like this guy, who is much more affordable and in many ways just as cool. Oh, and I just quickly want to mention, if you haven't noticed, I have this awesome Cybertronic Spree shirt. They are going to be appearing on September 9th in Oaks, Pennsylvania at RetroCon, and there's a concert that evening. I think tickets are sold out, but who knows, maybe they'll find some more or open it up to a couple more, but they will be there and they will be performing at least a couple songs with Stan Bush. How fucking cool is that? But all right, back to the toy. I hope to see you at RetroCon, but again, very cool. Let me know what you think of this guy in the comments. And while you're mulling over this particular Predaking, over here we got one of the craziest, I call him the Jolly Rancher version of Predaking. And of course, like, share, subscribe, super thanks would be nice. Hope you're enjoying these videos as much as I'm enjoying making them. And as always, have fun and good hunting.